So hi Sean. Today we'll be talking about let's start off with talking about continuing with for loops, right? So there's actually something that I didn't mention in the previous lesson, which is break and continue. So these are commands that they're relatively simple conceptually lah, so don't need to worry too much about them. So okay, as usual, I like to write code live. So let me just split the screen slightly like this. Okay, so um yeah, okay. So I clear the screen. So let's start off with a for loop. So I write for I in range 5, and I print I, right? So can you remember what this output is gonna be?
Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Close, very close, very close. It's just that remember that the iteration it will start off from I equals to 0. So
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
right, yeah. So it's okay. It's a minor thing. So if let's say I print I times 2, right? Then now lines 2 and line 3 will be inside the for loop because of the indentation here. So each of these if we execute 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, total of 5 times. And each time having I equals to 0 in the first iteration, I equals to 1 in the second iteration, and so on. So how about now? Are you able to guess the code,
Is it
the output?
0, 0,
Mm-hmm.
1, 2,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
That's right.
2, 4,
Yep.
3, 9. Wait, no,
Three,
no, no, 3,
three.
6,
Yeah,
and then
that's right.
4 and 8. Yeah.
That's right. Very good. So yep, this is just a recap of very good that you remember the for loop concept. So okay, so let me just remove that part. And so far we learned that when the for loop, right? Once you're executing the code inside the for loop, you just execute every single line, right? Without stopping. I mean without like you just execute every single line, right? In each iteration. So in each iteration, you just execute every single line possible. So let's say like that, you just execute line 2, line 3, line 4, line 2, line 3, line 4, and you continuously execute 2, 3, 4 without ever um breaking out of it. So but what if in the middle of it, right, we want to suddenly stop the for loop, we want to stop it prematurely, we actually use the break command. So let me just write a conditional inside the inside the for loop right now, and let's say I'll say hi. Okay, so it still doesn't break out the loop at the moment, but if I press run, are you able to predict the output? Can you just give it a try?
If I equals to 3. Oh, basically, like there's only output when I equals to 3, right?
But then there's a print I over here, which is not inside the conditional.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Oh, yeah, it's only inside the conditional when it's indented.
yeah, correct. So only
Oh,
the
okay.
print high is inside the only the
Okay.
print high is inside the if I equals to 2
Okay.
condition.
So I think the answer is 0,
Mm-hmm.
1, high to wait, 0, 1, high,
Mm-hmm.
3 and 4.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Is it?
excellent, excellent. Yep, that's correct. So you'll say 0, right? Because in the first iteration this doesn't execute. You just print this, print I. In the second iteration when I equals to 1, you just print I only. In the third iteration when I equals to 2, you'll just print I only. But when I equals to 3, it first prints I, then it prints 3. So a common mistake might be thinking that it's 0, 1, 2, 3 high, 4. But in reality, when you execute it, it's actually 0, 1, 2, high, and then 3, because high comes before 3. So yep, you got that correct. Okay. Okay, very good. So great. So what if let me just replace this print high over here with a break command. So what the break command does, right? If I put a break here, what it does is that whenever Python sees break, it'll break out the current for loop it is in. So in this case, it'll break out the for loop basically. So once Python reads break, right, as a command, it'll just exit out of for loop immediately. So if I run this, you see that it's going to be 0, 1, 2. And the moment I equals to 3, right, this conditional held true. right? And it hit the break command, it exited the for loop already, which means that it actually went to line 5. That's why it didn't print 3, 4, and 5, because it just immediately halted the entire for loop. Is this part clear? Okay, good. So if I say for loop ended here, right? Just to make it a bit clearer, for loop started. So if I write something like this, right, then you see that it says for loop started, then it's 0, 1, 2, for loop ended. So the break command immediately brings the program that immediately brings the pointer out of the loop. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just what the break command does. So if you have this code, then you see this output. So yeah, so remember that the break. So if I let's say I add in some additional lines, right, to make it a bit clearer, if I say print before comma I and print after comma I, then you can see even more clearly the order of execution. So you see that it prints before 0, then it prints, then this doesn't run, so it prints after 0 in the first iteration. So first iteration done, we go into second iteration when I takes on the value 1. So it prints before 1, then this doesn't execute, so it prints after after 1. Then the next iteration before 2, after 2, right? Then when I equals to 3, it starts off with before 3. We do in fact see before 3, because this line of code, right, is before breaking out the loop. So when I equals to 3, it goes sequentially. So it runs line 2 first, then it runs line 3. So we still see the before 3, but over here we break out of the thing already. That's why we do not see after 3, and that's why the program has halted after that. Is this part clear?
Wait, but the I equals to 3. Oh, I thought I equals to 3, then the output is 2 because it starts from 0.
Um, the output is the I is the when I equals to 3, then this is true, right? So um if like when I equals to 3 in this iteration, it's actually the fourth iteration. So when
Oh,
I
okay,
is a true, it's
okay.
actually the fourth iteration. So I understand it's a bit confusing when you do in terms of counting like the first iteration, second iteration, third iteration. Um, so actually most of the time when programmers think about it, we just think in terms of the value of I. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, I understand.
Yeah. So do you understand this code why you see before 3 and you don't see after 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So
but oh, sorry, can I ask like then
sure, sure.
for the break, then like why do people need the break?
Okay. So the break is useful when you use the for loops to like one way you can imagine is that maybe people write a for loop to try many numbers. So like um let's say they're writing a for loop as a way of trying many attempts at, let's say, cracking some code. Then the moment they get the correct code, right, they want to stop all the attempts already. So that's one application I can think of. Yeah, in general, this is just part of the toolbox, and the possibilities are really quite endless. So over here, I actually show an example where you can write a kind of a password checking system, right, using a for loop. And in fact, let's talk about it. And so if let's say I have for I in range a very, very huge number, let's say 100,000 lah. Okay, so ideally this will run 100,000 times, but it's effectively, like practically speaking, it's kind of infinity. So let's say I ask the user for their password, right? I ask the user for a password, and then if the user's password is let's say if password equal to, you can set the password over here. Then if it's correct, right? If the password is correct, then you break. Then
Oh,
after that, you print you have logged in successfully, or you can print welcome to the cloud. Then if you run this, what will happen is that Python will keep on asking you for the password until you get it correct. So let's see what happens, right? It runs line 1, line 1 tells Python to run lines 2, 3, 4, 100,000 times. So if I write Then so line 2 asks for the user's input, right? And let's say the user types in A and press enter. So if the user types in A and press enter, then it checks if A equals to secret. In that case, it's not true, so it does not break. So it goes in the next iteration, continues asking for the password. When I type B, C, it's all incorrect until I type the correct password, right? Which in this case is secret. Then this conditional holds true, and it goes into the break, right? Because this conditional holds true, secret equals to secret, it hits the break breaks out of the for loop, right? So it breaks out of the loop that keeps asking us for the password, and then continues execution with the rest of the program. In this case, it says, "Welcome to the club."
Oh, okay.
So this is just a quite a fun example lah. But in general, the break command, the applications are it's just part of your toolbox in general. Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
understand this example?
Yeah.
Okay. So so right now, if someone was patient enough to try 100,000 times, right? Actually, the for loop would end, right? Even though they haven't input the correct password, and it will still say welcome to the club. So if I put like, let's say I change to smaller number 5, right? So if I put A, B, C, D, E, it still says welcome to the club even though I didn't put the correct, because the for loop only runs 5 times, so it only checks the password 5 times before exiting. So ideally we want this to run forever. So you can put very huge number, but logically speaking, it still isn't forever lah. But we'll replace this with a while loop, which we'll be talking about later on today. Yeah. So a while loop allows you to, you see, it's another form of looping. Yeah. Okay. So okay, so now we're talking about the break. We can also talk about continue. So let's say we had some previous with the previous code that looks something like this. So maybe let me just print, if I do this, right, you see that it says before 0 after 0, before 1 after 1, before 2 after 2, before 3. Then because I equals to 3 hits this condition, right? This condition holds true when I equals to 3, then it prints wow. So we see wow over here, then it says after 3, before 4, after 4. So does this code make sense so far? Okay, so what if I so previously when I put break over here, we see that instead of printing while, right, it just breaks out of the loop. But let's try putting something else over here, continue. So continue would it'll ignore the rest of the code for that iteration. So I'll see if I run this, when the Python sees the word continue, right, and it's inside a for loop, then Python will ignore the rest of the code in that particular iteration. So basically, it will jump back to the top in the next iteration. So if you can see, if it's a little bit confusing, you can see the output over here, right? So we see before 0 after 0, before 1 after 1, before 2 after 2. And the interesting behavior starts to come when we hit the iteration where I equals to 3, which is when the conditional holds true. So we see before 3, but wait, we don't see after 3, right? The after the before 3, we see before 4. Where's the after 3? And the reason is because continue is a keyword in Python that has caused Python to skip over line 5, right? And go in and enter the next iteration immediately. Enter the iteration when I equals to 4. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if you can see, yeah, so this the highlighted part over here is the part you should focus on, right? For other iterations, other values of I, we see before I and after I. But for before 3, once we hit the continue, it goes immediately into line 2, into the next iteration when I equals to 4. So that's what the continue keyword does. Okay. Yeah. So once again, what's the purpose of this? Is it come in useful definitely at some point in time. Yeah, the use cases will automatically come up, right? Yeah. So let's just understand the concept first, and you see the application when you try to write. Yeah. So this is just an example, but actually this is a little bit yeah. But this we can also kind of formulate the password scenario using continue. Yeah. So there are many ways to do in programming. There are many implementations of the same behavior. So it's just also a matter of which one is like nicer looking, or yeah, there's also code style and stuff like that also. So if not, then let me just stop the screen recording. Yeah, any questions about the break and continue?
No.
Okay, then let me just go on to the next